G'day everybody. 101 years ago, your ANZAC went across the world and defended your land. 62,000 of them didn't come home. 101 years ago, ANZAC went across the world and died, spilt blood, so you may have a Commonwealth of Australia. They went across the world under this flag. This is the flag your ANZAC fought to defend. This is a 2x3 flag, not a 1x2 flag. This is a land war flag that your light horsemen carried into battle 101 years ago. They went across the world to defend the Commonwealth of Australia under this flag. 101 years later, a foreign power puts you in a lockdown and locked down your country, shut down all your shops under the guise of biosecurity that it installed 5 years ago. It put a fence around its parliament 3 years ago. It was well prepared for a financial crash to come along because it's been occupying your Commonwealth since the 1st of March 1967. It is here to collect debts from your Commonwealth. You are not that blue flag, which is now black. If you look at the police, they wear a black Australian flag, a subdued Australian flag to subdue you. 100 years later, they are taking your Commonwealth from you and your ANZAC. 101 years later, they put your freedom into prison, in a lockdown, shut down all your shops, and changed your entire life within a couple of weeks. And you did their bidding. This is you. This is what your ANZAC fought to defend. What they fly was introduced into your country in 1908, 8 years after you formed a Commonwealth. That flag was then introduced as legislation in 1953, meaning from 1908 to 1953, it was no flag of official capacity. So why was it in use here? This is your flag. Note the 6-pointed star here. Note the 9-pointed star here. Note the offset Southern Cross. Note the size of the flag. So your ANZAC went off to battle to defend a Commonwealth at which you, as a people, have decided to ignore. And at international law, flying this flag gives you credence under international peace treaties. This is who you are as a people, occupied by a blue flag with a 7-pointed star, legislated on you in 1953. They didn't change the naval ensign until the 1st of March 1967. And then they changed the seat of government in 1971 and installed their own seat of government in 1975. You are an occupied nation. You're a kingdom occupied by nations. So on this ANZAC Day, 101 years after your ANZAC spilt their blood across the globe so you could be free, you watch a foreign Catholic power under a foreign flag, under a foreign crown, under a foreign Great Seal of Australia, lock you down like a prison because you aren't being who you are in international law. You chose to fly their flag on their ship as a citizen of their citizenship. Now, Scott Morrison is a war criminal. Any action against this flag at international law is a war crime. He has a right to administer the Commonwealth under the rules of usufruct. He does not have the right to go outside of the conventions and treaties that this country signed into as it was administered. He does not have a right to go outside of the Hague Article 46, where you have a right to defend your family. He does not have a right under Hague Articles 43, 44, 45, if I remember correctly, to impact on you through your religion, your family. You have a right not to be pillaged by these people. You also have a right under your flag to stand loyal to your law and know that none of their law applies to you. And then under the Hague Conventions 2, Article 1, Christian Porter is defined as a war criminal for using armed force in the collection of debt. What do you think the justice system is with his police? So, I'm a little bit disturbed over the last few years that you can't click as to your ANZAC, your homeland, your own country, foreign occupied, under administration. They are the ones that privatised everything you are. They are the ones that stopped all your farmers doing deals with other countries. They are the ones that installed all the cattle and wheat boards and all of the conduits so that you can't do business unless without them. They have controlled your land under a military usufruct. And 101 years later, after your ANZACs sealed and defined this as a commonwealth, and then put it in international law at the peace treaties in Versailles and became a sovereign country of its own right, not a dominion anymore, sovereign country of its own right, and you fail to fly its flag. You fail to honour the people that actually came before you. You fail to honour the defence of homeland. You fail your ancestors by honouring a flag foreign to them, by allowing a flag foreign to them in your homes. You've allowed war criminals to come along and break international treaties and conventions that have sat on tables for over 100 years. And you have allowed these people to come in, sit in your government under false pretenses and create criminal activity and war crimes. Scott Morrison, you are a war criminal. Attorney General Christian Porter, you are a war criminal. You are a crime against this Commonwealth at international law. And the people are starting to wake up to who they are and to see who you are, a foreign power on this soil. That's the bottom line. You took a St. Edward's crown, you wore a St. Edward's crown, you flew its flags, you took its oaths, and you sat in its parliaments. You are not us. You do not stand in lineage of the ANZAC. Christian Porter was questioned for months and went silent and refused to answer as to where he gets his line of authority to hold any rule of law. He went silent because he knows he does not have rule of law. He does not have a line of authority back to your ANZAC because he is a foreign imposing power that raised its flag on your naval admiralty on the 1st of March 1967. So today, I'd like you to be aware that since 1975, there has been a foreign seat of government in your homeland. It does not work for you. It works for a foreign papal power, not in lineage to your Protestant Christian Commonwealth. It is a foreign enemy at law, and it has obligations in international law. You are the ones that dragged it 100 years down the track, and in the last decade, have tried to make you aware, and you just want to argue about yourselves. So on this day, today, Anzac Day, 2020, Nazi Australia, foreign occupied land, Scott Morrison is not in control. He handed control to a national cabinet that runs a medical emergency through the CDC and through FEMA and through the Commander-in-Chief in Donald Trump, an administrator of the United States of America since 1861, a bit later than that, but Civil War. So Trump is not what he seems, ScoMo is not what he seems, and ScoMo and Christian Porter are war criminals at law. Christian Porter has gone outside of The Hague, outside of the Geneva, and has disregarded what stands in international law and holds no line of authority, and therefore cannot hold any rule of law in your land. He is a foreign power. So on this Anzac Day, I'd like you to really think why you have Great War monuments in every single town. And I want you to think why you became wards of your town and live in council wards under a Lord Mayor. Why are you warded to the state now in your cities that have these memorials listed with the names of the dead that defended those cities so you could live in them freely? It's time for you all to understand and comprehend. The Lord Mayor in your local city is under a foreign oath of allegiance, and he doesn't work for your ANZAC, and he doesn't work under an oath of allegiance to the line of authority that you are. So locally, your Lord Mayor is a con artist and a liar, and you need to address that, because federally is where all your cities gathered together to be a commonwealth. When you were decolonised into a commonwealth, and Clause 8 removed the Colonial Boundaries Act, the state became a governance of structure. It had no law to hold you. It was your public service. The law became the Commonwealth. And you all gave that up to become wards of state, and they treat you like wards of state. They treat you like they are your guardians, and you will do what you're told. But they are a foreign power. They have no right to tell you what to do in your own homeland. If you would recognise who you are, and you're not them. You follow in the line of authority of your ANZAC, who sealed a kingdom and put a stone in a shrine to define that kingdom. You stand in the line of authority of your ANZAC. They gave you this. They died to give you this. And you ignore them. You go and fly the blue flag of foreign power, a naval flag that your own laws tell you should not be flown on land. Blue and white ensigns are naval ensigns that are to be flown on water only. So why does this government ignore what King George V laid down in Admiralty law in relation to your red and blue? And why is our Flags Act overriding your red as a civil merchant flag? You're all confused. So let's go over this. It's a 6-pointed star. This increases 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 2 by 3. It's a federal land war flag that was carried into battle by a light horseman. This was carried into battle in Gallipoli. This is the one thing that you all don't remember when you try and remember what your ANZAC died for. This represents your Commonwealth, represents your Imperial Crown, represents the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia, which is not in use right now. This is who you are. This is what your ANZAC died for. This is what makes you a country, a people, a kingdom. This is a king's flag. Why are you flying a blue naval ensign on Anzac Day, on land, against what King George put down as Admiralty law? You are not to fly naval blue ensigns on your homeland. You are to fly what your ANZAC died for. That's the bottom line. So, you want to change this? Now we look at international law and standing in international law. And the fact that Christian Porter, Scott Morrison, Malcolm Turnbull, John Howard, Tony Abbott, I mean, the list goes on. Malcolm Fraser is one of the only prime ministers in your history since this occurred to have told you that it occurred. Malcolm Fraser is the only Prime Minister since 1971 to have given you any indication that you are an occupied people. He told you very bluntly in his own words that you were not a sovereign country. What would make you a sovereign country? And if all of these Prime Ministers have acted against international law and have actually created war crimes and are war criminals against this in international law, then it would seem to me that you need to unite. Iceland showed you that you have the lawful capacity to put these war criminals behind bars. You don't need to fight for this. You need to stand in the law that the ANZAC left for you before it disappears forever, because you forgot. And that's why you're told every year, lest you forget. Lest you forget. Right, so I'm getting sun glare now. So lest you forget. That's what needs to be said today. Because you all forgot. You all forgot your own history. No one flies an ANZAC flag. No one stands on the land. God gave you land to stand on, Genesis 1:9. And it took for you all to gather the waters to that place so that land would appear. You all need to stand up with your red and be a people. And then that land appears underneath your feet. The land does not appear underneath your feet till you stand for it. Okay? And when you stand for it, you have the lawful right to charge these people in your courts, not theirs. Their judges don't work for you. They are under foreign oath. Everything in their line of authority is foreign to you, and you can ignore it because it is not under your line of authority. You are an occupied people. Follow your laws and recognize them as occupiers and stand in the de jure, and you will have the capacity to put Malcolm Turnbull, Scott Morrison, Christian Porter, John Howard, the list goes on. You can put them all in jail for war crimes against you, for crimes against humanity, for crimes against mankind, for crimes against the planet, for crimes against the environment. The list goes on. You can put these people in jail if you only stood up for who you were in international law. Lest you forget, please give a minute's silence for them today.